Welcome back, everybody, to the World Championship Series Season 1. We are currently in Day 2, and we just saw 2 players eliminated in Group A, and this match will be the elimination match of Group B to see who will be knocked out and who will keep their tournament life alive. Our first player is the last Chinese representative after Jigo was unfortunately just knocked out in Group A. Please welcome Invictus Gaming's MacSed. MacSed will be going up against an opponent who comes all the way from Australia. Having come so far, I'm sure he wants to keep his WCS dream alive so much more than some of these other players. Please welcome Exile 5's PiG. In this elimination match of Group B, it'll be China versus Australia. We'll see who will come out on top. Players shake hands. Time to find out who will win. Experts, take it away.
Thank you very much, Smix, as the players make their way to their booths as PiG takes on MacSed. And this is a big game now, an elimination game, as we had earlier on. Every single game today is important. It's an elimination game, the winner's match game, and then another elimination game straight away. And this is all or nothing for both players. Now, let's first of all talk about MacSed, Rossi. You guys, both of you over there, Ronnie, Nate, my boys, have been following MacSed for a good couple of years. He's played in 6 Premier Leagues now out of 7. Very consistent, not very high place finishing. He hasn't hit the high notes that often. I think he got a couple of top 8s in 2013.
Yeah, I think 1 top 8, maybe 2 top 8s, and then the rest top 16s. And just last year, Season 3, that was his only round of 32 elimination.
So you talk to us about him then.
He's fun, man. Like I keep telling Nate over and over again, the reason why I always love casting MacSed, especially in the older days, is that his styles are very, very similar to mine. We are both of the category Dirty Protoss, and I rock that with pride. He had a couple of really cool builds, like the Phoenix Gateway all-in, those kind of tricky stuff. And often, like, he pretends he's doing something and then he's not doing it all. Like yesterday, he's like, "Hey guys, 6-minute, 30-second third base." No, really, I'm macroing it. It's like, bam, 9 gateways, no more probes. And it's just fun to follow him. But you can only go so far with that playstyle.
Would you say this is his strength, but also at the same time his weakness?
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, well, let's think back to the round of 32. He played against Snoot. He lost against Snoot. Did take a map win though. Improvements that he can work on towards now. What are some of the things that he should be looking at changing up, improving to make sure he gets a victory here against PiG?
I remember casting him. It was either Season 2 last year or Season 3 last year, where I kind of expected that same style again of MacSed, and then suddenly he showed me the most legit way to play PvZ. This is a 1 gate, fast expand, go up to 2 bases, then it goes 3 gateways, goes up to 3 bases, blink stalkers and observers, and he just played it out like he was freaking Rain. He was just sitting back and defending. I was like, wow, so when did you learn how to do this? Like I've been trying for years. There's a reason why I all in. So he can do it, and I think it's very important that he does bring that to the table at least once or twice in this series, because if he's just going to try to all in, pick 3 games in a row or 2 games, I don't think it's going to be enough.
Well, isn't this type of player, tricky, dangerous? The longer he plays in a tournament, the more exposed his builds and strategy become, which makes it easy to play against.
Yeah,
I went down to the player area earlier and I saw PiG watching the VODs of MacSed against Snoot yesterday. And the big thing we saw against MacSed yesterday is he stumbled up quite a lot against Swarmers. We saw Snoot go down to 26 drones.
26.
26.
26.
26. And
that comeback.
And he managed to come back from that low amount of drones. So I think MacSed needs to avoid that scenario somehow.
So let's not forget, I think it's very important to mention that was even on Deadwing, not necessarily like, okay, Deadwing vertical is not bad for swarm modes, but like that wasn't overgrowth or something, so it could have even been worse. So if that happens on Deadwing already, where there is room for you to harass with war prisms, there is room for proxy pylons, and it's easy to take bases on the other side of the map. If that happens on Deadwing, then you're gonna have a really hard time finding yourself in that scenario on overgrowth or maybe Vani.
So are we gonna come to the conclusion then that the longer the game goes, possibly for MacSed, the worse it becomes for him and the easier it becomes for PiG, Nathanius?
Yeah, I think it was really clear, especially in that game that we're talking about against Snoot, where he had the lead, but he really tried to press his advantage too hard. He didn't sit back and say, well, I have other ways that I can finish the game, that I can, kind of tighten all the loose ends. He seems a bit stubborn in terms of those aggressive plays, and I think for Pig, it's going to be about playing the game long, not falling to any of those all-ins, and just staying solid the whole way throughout.
What's really kept MacSed away from a top 4 finish?
His PVT in the past, like that's definitely what kept him away. Like he was way too stubborn in the matchup and just hadn't really figured it out yet. And overall, a little too one dynamic. Like Protoss is not the type of race that you can play the same style, especially in PvZ. Like I'm sure Fennec can attest to this as well. If you know exactly how the Protoss is going to play, you're like, well, cool, bring it on.
Yeah, definitely in PvZ is the matchup where you need to mix it up the most, because if Pig comes into this and he knows that MacSed's going to be going for these all-ins, the fake third bases, the 2-base all-ins, things like that. Yeah. He can just blindly build units and counter it if he wants to, and that'll be just too easy, too predictable.
Well, let's keep going down this direction and talk about Pig a little bit. Before we talk more about strategy, let's talk more about Pig as an individual and what this means to him. I mean, being from Australia yourself, living there, you make the way to playing Cologne for the round of 32 with the WCS changes in 2015. You get the opportunity to come over and play in the WCS. He makes his debut. He advances in second place, which we saw time after time. It meant a lot to him with the emotion that he put into it. Now he's here again. What does this mean for him?
This is massive for Pig. But a lot of people might not know this, but he's been around in the scene a long time, like pretty much from the start of the game. He's been around in Australia, so he doesn't get that much exposure. He's been dominating the scene over there. It's basically Pig, Igers, there's King Kong as well, who came over from Korea for a bit, and then there's Petraeus as well, who's over in Europe now, doing pretty well as well. But Pig, every time you see him win, we've seen that hype. I think he's in the round of 32. He just went crazy with that. You can tell that he desperately craves a big international win because he hasn't had one yet.
Yeah, and I think we saw that a lot with his games in the round of 32. His first match was against Happy, and we know that Happy's a great player, and he absolutely wiped the floor with Pig. It wasn't even close. He got destroyed, but then he gathered his momentum and brought himself back together again. He beat Targo, which is a great feat and an old rival of his anyway, and then got the rematch against Happy, and that's why probably why we saw those emotions crawl through. But in the round of 16 now, this is a very different point of his career. It's the biggest and best thing he's ever done. And on top of this, what does this mean for Australia? Not just Pig, but as your country, there's a lot of people right now watching from Australia for him. How does this help your scene?
This is massive for our scene. Australia's really had any big results except for Moonglade a long time ago. So this is huge for Australia right here. If Pig can take this down, I can tell you, everyone from Australia who watches SC2, is awake now, is watching Pig. They're going to be cheering for him. You'll see them on Twitter. There's going to be a lot of people out there going crazy for this guy. He's got the support behind them. Hopefully he can do it. I think he will be a bit nervous, though. I think he's that kind of guy. You see the emotions after his win. You don't have those kind of emotions unless you've got some nerves in there.
Yeah, there's obviously the positive side as you span off there, but there's also a negative side to this too. Roddy, he lost versus Showtime yesterday.
Yeah, one of the absolute best Protoss players in Europe, and a series that he did not have to lose. A series that I would even say was Pig's to lose, and in the end he did lose it, but that was not necessary. I don't think he has to overemphasize that loss. Like, it was obviously disappointing. You much rather play the winner bracket because then you maybe even get out in the first place. But still, I think that was a series that he could be pretty proud of, because Showtime is a guy that's getting so much praise and love from all the commentators, all the European pro gamers as well. Right. And the fact that the Pig just went toe for toe and even put himself in a winning situation, that's almost a victory on itself.
What did Pig do right and do wrong yesterday then that really stands out the most? I mean, Nathanius, you watched the games as well? I
mean, we saw that Showtime just did a really good job of forcing that awkward base trade situation on Overgrowth. I had a chance to speak with Pig afterwards about it, and I think it might have been you, Fenner, or one of the other people with us asked about, how many Brewlords did he really need to make? Could he have committed more to the static defense and slowing down and preventing that from happening? And Pig just, he said he wants to be a little bit more active out on the map. He wanted to go for the Broodlord style, didn't want to play the most passive game ever with only Swarmos. It's not particularly his favorite flavor of ZvP to play.
I think he was too nice, man. He should have been dirtier. Just like
cash host,
put all the money in spine crawlers and spore crawlers. Like, this is WCS, man. Do what you got to do. You ain't going to please nobody other than yourself and your bank account.
I think what happened there, though, is that Pig got way too excited. He had massive momentum in that second game. He had the game in the bag, and then Showtime just forced this scrappy situation where he managed to make the comeback. And I feel like Pig was there, he was excited, he's thinking he was going to win, and then he's not thinking about the strategy, like what can possibly happen here, and Showtime does something crazy, and he didn't react to it in the correct way.
Well, let's bring this back in to focus on both of them now facing off against each other. We've got MacSed here, who, obviously this means a lot to him, just as much as it means a lot to Pig, facing off against each other now. Are we going to see the aggressive MacSed bringing these different types of plays into the match, and then Pig all right, what are you tricky, dirty, dangerous Protoss up to, and how do I stop it?
This is one of these series that I really wouldn't want to, predict or have to gamble on or something. Because, like, whoever wins, you have a story for it. If MacSed wins it, you'd be like, yeah, I kind of expected, he's really good in executing those sort of builds. And if PiG wins, then you're going to say, like, well, yeah, obviously, if you just scout MacSed out, then PiG is good enough to deal with those crazy builds. So it's really 50-50 for me. I have no idea how this one is going to play out. I would say small advantage maybe for PiG, just because I feel that PiG is more versatile. Also showed us an awesome build on Vani Research. It's quite funny, I actually died against that build a few days ago, and I was like, man, I'm so stupid, how do I die to this? And now I see it being used in WCS, I was like, okay, maybe it's not just me, maybe it's a legit good build, So I think that what PiG has over MacSed is that he's more versatile and that he's more willing to think outside of the box, and MacSed is a little more one dynamic.
Closing thoughts then, before we pass it over to the commentary team?
I think it's going to be PiG. He's going to be looking to go Swarm Host in this. If he can get to a stable Swarm Host composition, then I think he's going to be good to go. He's just got to get there.
I like PiG a lot. He's the guy that I'd be cheering for here. And by the way, this is a very important series for both these guys, not just for them as players, but also for their scenes, trying to get a bit more recognition in the global spotlight.
All right, thank you very much, boys. And now it's time to head over to the commentary team. Todd and Claris, are you ready for this one?
Well, I am ready for sure, as we have PiG, who really impressed me yesterday with how he was able to play those games. Unfortunately for him, not quite moving on through to where he wanted, but now finding himself in this lower bracket game against a pretty dangerous opponent, I would say, in MacSed.
I think both players, like, even though they lost yesterday, they played pretty well. Like MacSed, he showed a lot of good things. And I even think, up to some extent, that maybe he should have even won, or he was in a position at some point to even win the series. So going into this match, it's not like, two guys that heavily underperformed yesterday are going to be going up against each other. Like, I'm looking to see, kind of fireworks, lots of action everywhere. Probably not very short games, unless MacSed kind of got fed up from the games yesterday with the Swarm Host and thinks to himself he wants to end it earlier than that, in which case we could be seeing something very aggressive. But I don't think so. I think his play yesterday was good enough for him to realize that he just needs to play a little bit better, and it's going to work out well for him. And on the other hand, we have a PiG who, again, really wants it. I talked with him. He told me, well, my plan is simple. I'm going to scout what attacks he's going for, what cheeses, because he's expecting a bit of cheese. And then I'm going to defend, and I'm simply going to win from there.
All right, well, I know that for a fact that PiG, he has been practicing a lot for this, practicing for Protoss especially, and going for Swarm Host and stuff like that is something that is definitely in his repertoire. Overgrowth is going to be our first map, and this one certainly does favor that kind of style, although his games yesterday and going to those Broodlords as aggressively as he did was very exciting and came down to that quite close decision there in the very end of that. But let's get into it. It's going to be game number 1 here on Overgrowth between PiG and MacSed. The winner will be going on to the decider match, and unfortunately the loser will be going home. As we have spun down to the bottom left-hand corner, it is our blue Protoss representing Invictus Gaming. It is MacSed. And up to the top right-hand corner, it's our red Zerg representing Exile 5, coming all the way from Australia. It is PiG.
And both of these players, they actually live quite far from here. They will have a long way home were they to lose here. One of these guys is going to be heading home, in the last place in this group. You don't want that to happen. And also, this is a group where whoever wins here is going to face Snoot or Showtime later on for the top 8 qualification. And I feel like it will be a pretty open match, like they wouldn't particularly be an underdog in this one. So definitely, going to be important to try and secure a win here for both of these guys. MacSed, he went for a pylon up the ramp. I'm always thinking gateway when I see that. No reason to put a forge there, really.
No, not too much. He's actually got quite a few probes queued up there. So this probe is going to move on down towards that Nexus location. And going even for a Nexus first here against Expansion first also for PiG is probably going to fare MacSed well during all of this.
Is he going to scout after, though? That is the question. It's actually, for a second, I thought he was going to scout before.
That would have been weird. But now this probe will throw that down. And
no scout. Oh, no, actually, no. He changed. He keeps on turning. MacSed's going to go for his scouts, as well as PiG's going to be able to realize that this was indeed a Nexus first, followed by a Gateway. pretty much ASAP. He saw the probe, which is a little bit late for being a cannon rush, but somehow PiG maybe misread it a little bit and was like, I don't want to risk it. Just going to start a pull rather than go for the third hatchery. Upon realizing that there is a Nexus, I wonder actually, like, does he try something like taking the gold? Or does he still go, you know, for the safe route?
I think he may go the safe route here. PiG, you know, I think he's probably quite comfortable in this matchup when he is just playing standard and safe, but then obviously when it gets to the later stages of the game and he really opens up those vents, it can get quite fiery from there. And he does bring out a very interesting brand of Zerg, I gotta say, with how he plays it.
I really think he shouldn't have lost this game yesterday on Overgrowth against Showtime. Had it played it just a little bit better, really. That's all it took. A few mistakes here and there, you know, getting some overlords out of position, getting them sniped and all that. Really what cost him the game, in my opinion. And now going up against, you know, MacSed, who again played pretty impressively against Snoot, even was in a position to win at some point. He's going to have to be on his A game.
Yeah, he definitely is going to have to. The group as a whole, aside from the usual standout of Snoot, I think is a pretty balanced group, a pretty even group amongst the talent that we have in there. And PiG is just sorting out one or two issues that he has here whilst we get back into this game. But he has a nice opener. You know, you said that he could have easily gone triple hatch before pool during all of this, but that's not the case. But it's still a fine opener. He is still going to be economically well going into the later stages.
Economically well. Why does MacSed look devastated, man?
I don't know. He's like, I can't take this, man. I can't take this pause. Maybe he's a little bit tired.
He scouted the 2 hatcheries. He's like, well, he's expanding. Nah, looks a little bit tired or stressed, actually.
Yeah, perhaps. Perhaps. Well, it's do or die here now, and he faces off against a player that he probably doesn't not only have not that much information on, but also probably just hasn't played at all.
I was trying to talk to him a little bit earlier about his match, but it's difficult. He didn't pick too much English, and my Chinese is probably worse. He was telling me, though, that he thought that Snoot was really, really good against him, obviously. He kept saying, like, Snoot Imba and stuff. So, giving a lot of respect to Snoot. PiG is going to have to play at least as good if he wants to win here.
Yeah. And that is a tall order when you're talking about arguably the best foreigner in the world at the moment. As MacSed, on the other side of things, is just going to bring that probe on back and going to be economically well himself as well, Todd. So, he'll be doing okay.
Going to be interesting to see what PiG exactly goes into in the start. We've seen Hydra actually play with a lot of Zerglings and Hydras, completely skipping on Roaches and doing pretty well. So maybe PiG might take a page out of that book, but usually it's much more standard out of PiG, you know? He goes into Ru, as many Roaches as he needs to be safe, Zerglings, and then later on, he's had a few, you know, periods with which he likes to use weather. Sometimes, you know, he goes for Mutas, sometimes he goes for Swarm Host. On this map, though, I really wouldn't be surprised if he went for something like Swarm Host, and then later on chose to transition to something else. Or even Swarm Host Turtle is pretty good on this map.
And if I recall, you know, in the games that he had on Overgrowth, his creep strobe was pretty good. So that does lend itself well to the Swarm Host kind of style, but then he seemed a little bit reluctant to fully commit to it. So, but he is scouting out everywhere on that left-hand side of the map with this Ling, making sure that nothing is hidden, checking the gold base location even, just in case there was like a starport or anything to make sure he's not going to get caught off guard.
MacSed's being really active out on the map, which I really, really like. Like getting a, you know, watchtower like this, PiG has to be getting a little bit paranoid right now. He has to be wondering, why is he out on the map with a Zealot and a Stalker? Like this could mean he wants to be aggressive with gateways. There could be a Dark Shrine on the way. Ideally, you want to be able to know what your opponent's up to. All that PiG has seen here was that the 1 Forge and the 2 additional gateways, but there could still have been, you know, something like, again, a Dark Shrine on the way here. So he needs to be careful and wary of that. But MacSed's going to start the third Nexus here very quickly, even before the 7th minute. That's a super fast third here, which shouldn't be killable by PiG anytime soon, because he only starts speed now.
Yeah, had to get over there, really put on some pressure, had to do any damage. This Overlord, as you said, it's only seen the 3 gateways and the Forge, so it's such a common opener that what do you read into that from this point on? Once that Overlord is now dead, there's the potential that MacSed would throw out something extra down. The sentries and the gas is allocated elsewhere. This third base becomes evident to us, obviously. And
look at how paranoid PiG is. he gets burrow immediately. Like, you would usually not really do that unless you really think that there's a very good chance your opponent's going to go for some aggression. It's been very difficult, actually, for a lot of Zergs to know whether or not a Protoss player wants to actually go for a macro game when they go for a third, because there's been more and more, you know, of those 8 gates, big gateway attacks with blink or not, and a lot of the time, well, you see a third base from a Protoss, you're like, well, it's time to drone up to 80 plus, but actually if you do that, there is a good chance you're going to take a lot of damage, sometimes even die against these kind of attacks from Protosses. And look, MacSed is actually going to put some pressure on, so doing this here for PiG, he should be able to defend quite easily. He even gets the spine on the third. I was talking about this with him. He told me against, you know, all these aggressions, getting a spine can be good.
He's at 60 workers at the moment. He would like to go up a little bit further, but with this threat on the map, has to make units. So good force out here by MacSed. Even if he doesn't go any further, even if he just walks on back and saves energy from the recall that he would have to use, it is a nice little move, although he does have this reinforcing pylon. The 3 gateway pressure is quite irritating here for PiG. He even sneaks in a few drones during this because he knows it might not be the full commitment.
It's really nice that he's going to force a few force fields, but he needs to burrow behind this. He forgot that he has burrow.
Oh, he could have burrowed all of those.
This would have been a brilliant move.
Yeah, just save those units. Now MacSed actually might continue on. He has a few force fields left over to him. He sees that spine crawler and is a little bit reluctant to continue on, though.
I mean, at this point, MacSed obviously not expecting to kill PiG right here and then, but he's getting the Dark Shrine behind this, and this is actually very deadly of an addition here to go for him. He already has a lot of gateways, a lot of income. Obviously, DTs are not going to be that costly here. He's going to have to sacrifice, I guess, either, you know, Templar or Colossus tech, which in this case, you would go for Colossus usually. But the thing is, there is a very high reward a lot of the time to going DTs like this, because you send one in each base, at least you start slicing down drones. For Zerg, you're not only going to lose some mining time, you're going to lose a ton of drones and economy. And then from there, you have a Protoss on 3 bases with his economy untouched the entire game. And it's just so difficult for Zerg.
Well, there is a Spore Crawler at that 3rd base for those Dark Templars, but that's about it. At least he'll have the layer to get those overseers morphed in. He's actually going to throw down some force fields and cut up a huge portion of that army. Moving over to the right-hand side here and decides not to go in too far.
It's only 6 sentries, I think. I thought 5 for a second. No, yes, it's 6. So he's running out of energy here. MacSed used a whole bunch of hallucinations to fly around. Right now he's seeing that there's no Spore in the main, no Spore in the natural. He's going to start on warping in DTs here very shortly. Why is he not?
At least he sees the pylon.
And he starts double target.
Well, going to kill that, and that means it frees up a little bit of the pressure that could come on down this path. But a nice force field, actually, to catch this queen to start things. But at the same time, PiG would have got a concave if he actually went for it, and will have to force the recall.
Why is he getting a Stargate? I guess the only thing that that MacSed has seen so far is roaches and Zerglings, and I think because of that, he's trying to read too much into what he's up against, and he's thinking, well, I've seen only roaches and Zerglings, you are banking a lot of gas. You might be going for a mutat transition against which, you know, I want to be ready, so he gets double Stargate. Either that or he's already thinking Tempest against the Swarmos, which would be a little bit crazy at this stage in the game. Oh no, he wants to add some Void Rays to his composition. This is a bit weird here. You don't usually see that too much.
Maybe
unless Protoss is open with his target and go into either an Oracle or Phoenixes.
Maybe he's reading into what PiG was doing yesterday on this map. I mean, it's ambitious because it's so far away. There's the Spiral actually going down. Tries to go for the warp in here. Dark Templars are actually going to work on this. And yes, he can see the Zealots, but he can't see the Dark Templars underneath all of this. He's going to lose the hatchery.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not a very big loss, in my opinion.
Transfuses. So obviously, it actually pops and he dies just before that last Dark Templar goes down.
But there is another hatch behind this and not too far. So he's not going to have to, you know, to long distance mine towards the natural all the way. So that it's not really not the end of the world here. I'm actually really surprised that MacSed, even though he scouted there was no spores anywhere, he didn't spread out a bunch of DTs. He would have killed so many drones.
Yeah, no,
it's actually a pretty massive mistake, in my opinion, not to have done that.
Well, the Spire is about to complete here for PiG. Behind all of this, he did see it, so he knows what's up. Double Void Ray production being mixed into this. This is a very old school composition he's making, actually.
A lot of Koreans, they go for Void Rays and Colossus, you know, as part of their composition, but usually it's really because they open Stargate early on. I haven't seen too many, you know, Colossus opener into Stargates for the Void Rays.
Yeah. That Warp Prism still poses a threat over on the right-hand side as MacSed is looking to just try and threaten on both angles. Down the left, down the right-hand side. He's also taking a base down to the bottom right whilst all of this is going on. So we could be in for the long haul here. If PiG decides to actually just draw this out with a lot of swarm hosts, he's getting a 9 extra. There is certainly the opportunity for him to try and take full control of the map and split it 50-50.
Both players have really cool shirts and jerseys, jackets in the case of MacSed, by the way. Very similar in colors, but I love that they have their flag, you know, on there. Australia versus China.
Proud of their countries.
This is like one of the great things about the new format of WCS. You see like so many countries represented and going up against each other. That makes it very interesting, in my opinion.
Yeah, I like that a lot. The War of Nations, we're here in France, so I thought I'd throw that in there just to kind of get it in, is very cool here in WCS. As we do have that army composition now moving forwards here from MacSed. And it's got a lot of power to it, with 9 Void Rays behind it, 4 Colossi for the splash, and 23 Stalkers to bring down anything that gets a little bit closer on. But PiG is setting up. He's got a lot of Spore Crawlers being added on now. He's even getting Pathogen Glands for those Infestors to really add a lot of potency to this army, and even more Queens to get those Transfuses down where he needs them.
Yeah, I really don't know what MacSed is going to be able to achieve against this. Oh, he's hallucinating a bunch of Colossi.
He's going to go.
He's actually going to go for a massive attack with reinforcing pylons right behind this. He wants to break his opponent. This is the timing he's been aiming to hit the whole time here.
Well, how well will he do here? Force Fields will cut up a little bit of that army on the right-hand side, so he'll do well and cost-efficiently for now. But with this extra Locust Wave going on forwards, how well will this work out? A few of the Stalkers are already going to die off on the ground floor. At the same time, though, the majority of the Locusts did die off to the splash damage, so the Swarm Hosts are going to have to fall on back. The blink forwards there by a very ambitious MacSed, looking to get on top of the Swarm Hosts, but they will retreat away for now. But this is a huge army still here, Todd.
Yeah, PiG has a bunch of spores, but they're a little bit far behind. An Infestor actually walks into this army of doom here, and he's gonna just disintegrate.
Still more Locusts moving forwards. They're slowly soaking up all of the damage that this army can put out for now, but still, MacSed, Max down, and PiG with a few of the Mutalisks coming in from the right hand side. They really can't do a whole lot against this army at the moment. The drones are gonna have to evacuate now.
I really don't understand the choice of going for Mutas. He thought he was fine against this attack with just the Swarm Host, and that Mutas would just help take out the Void Race, I guess, but I don't think he's gonna be fine at all.
A lot of lasers, and a lot of Zerg death at the moment, unfortunately for PiG, as the blink fall over onto the right-hand side, zoning out those Mutalisks again. The Void Rays have gone almost untouched for the most part, still raining down a lot of damage there, and the Zealot counter as well. MacSed with, again, this kind of old-school composition, and the follow-up of a Fleet Beacon as well. He is miles ahead at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, even the reaction to the Mutas right now, like he's getting a bunch of cannons in his main. He already has the double Stargates. He's going for the double Fleet Beacon, actually. Why not?
Yeah, sure.
Even thinking ahead of that. If one gets sniped, he'll have the other one.
He's thinking ahead of the meta completely here, Todd, with the double Fleet Beacon going down. But there you go. That's up to the top left. That base will end up falling. There you go. The Zealots have done their job. GG. As MacSed will take game number 1. A pretty furious game from him there, actually. Very, very powerful of a composition and just bulldozed through.
A bit disappointing by PiG, you know. I feel like he might have been anticipating, you know, too much aggression early on. And there was indeed that move out, you know, where MacSed went for the pressure, used a bunch of force fields before finally pulling back, but PiG maybe overreacted a little bit, and then behind this he was afraid the whole time of any kind of timing that would hit him. And the timing that hit him, he hit actually probably, like, I would say much later than he had anticipated. And it was even like mass Colossi, a bunch of Stalkers with Guardian Shield, and the Void Race in support. He really didn't have that much anti-air.
But that's the
thing.
thing.
Doesn't seem two-faced. He's singing right now.
PiG's PiG. He'll always smile, regardless of if he wins or loses. But the cool thing is that's what really good Protoss do, right? They always keep you on edge, always making you expect that there is going to be that push, that attack. And MacSed, with his 3 gates for a long time, was doing that. And that's really cool to see here from MacSed.
I feel like MacSed is one of those Protosses where too many people say that he's cheesy for how much he actually is cheesy. Like some people really are, like Haz, for example, he fully deserves his reputation. but MacSed, I feel not nearly as much. I feel like MacSed has always been one of those guys that can macro very, very well, but that will sometimes cheese or play to his image just to give himself some kind of edge in games.
Well, we're getting on to game number 2 very soon here. Deadwing will be our map, PiG. Just joining the lobby in a second here. And it will be Deadwing, as I did mention. This is potentially a better map here for PiG. especially if they get cross spawns, unless he wants to go very swarm host heavy. And then ideally, he would like to be in those vertical positions to try and launch it forwards if he gets good creep spread from going.
The thing is, you can adjust your style according to the map here. If you're Pig and you get cross map, then it's a lot more encouraging to go for Mutas, I feel. Like, you know, what he did here with going for the Zergling Roaches up until it was safe and then doing a Muta transition with lots of gas. It's one of the things that on Dead Wing I think will work out very, very well. With all the room that you have to launch a counterattack very quickly, the vision you get from watchtowers and all that. But Protoss themselves have quite a few very deadly builds on this map. You know, we've seen the Blink Stalkers in action, you know, just below the third base when they shoot from down there, that are very hard to attack into or to defend. All that stuff can be very, very dangerous, especially if you don't see it coming.
That is true. All right, well, we just need one more minute before we get into game number 2 here between these two players.
If there is a third map, it'd be Vanny Research Station.
I think Pig would fare okay on Vanny Research Station, actually.
I think it'd be very open on Vanny.
Yeah.
And no surprise on the vetoes, by the way. Secret Spring, Inferno Pulse, Expedition Lost, Catalina.
I mean, Inferno Pulse actually snuck into one of the series, right? But we didn't get to see it.
By accident, I think. No, it's just...
By accident. Well, yeah, could have...
Somebody forgot to veto it.
Whoops. Oh, well. We have basically seen these 3 maps more so than any other. Catalina has squeaked in there from time to time, of course, but these 3 have definitely been the most popular as the tournament has gone on here in the round of 16. And no surprises, I think a lot of these pro gamers at the moment feel pretty comfortable on these 3 across the board.
You know, it's really hard. Like those games, like the last one, you look at them here as a caster or spectator and you're like, what the hell was Pig doing, really? Like, he was on 4 bases, he didn't have the static defense, his army was placed poorly, then he made Mutas against this many Stalkers. Doesn't really make sense, but you have to understand, StarCraft is a game where many times during a game at this high level, you need to kind of be guessing what's going to come next, and you need to try and anticipate what your opponent's going to do to try and basically outdo him. Simple as that. Now Pig, he misread the situation a little bit, and he thought that, you know, this attack was going to be defended no matter what because of the Locust on the ground, the Mutas were going to take down the Void Race, and then he was going to be in a counter-attacking position with the Mutas, you know, to put on some harassment, weaken the economy of his opponent while he kept on expanding and, you know, teching and all that, blah, blah, blah. But it's really MacSed's attack that he didn't see coming and anticipate that put him in trouble. And it's very, very hard to judge exactly what your opponent's doing in the game with a lot of incomplete informations. So maybe one of the good things that Pig could do to avoid for that to repeat will be to scout a little bit more in terms of, you know, sending in Zerglings, scouting the composition, flying in an Overseer. That's a great way to know exactly what your opponent's taking into. Like, I mean, the blink and +2, you don't really need to scout. Like, it's pretty obvious. Like, a lot of the time, that's what's going to happen. Past, you know, the timing where a cheese would have happened. But then behind this, scouting whether there is Colossus, how fast they are coming out, on how many Robo, how quick is Storm going to be, or is there some Stargate support on the way? Those are some very important details. There really was a massive lack of anti-air, other than for Spores that actually were out of position that last game, which actually kind of annoys me. It would have been very different.
Well, yeah. Pig, I think he can approach these games a bit better. I think he's just trying to compose himself in this moment. Obviously, he's taking a little bit longer than, you know, just straight into game and composing himself. It's something that's important if he's feeling a tad on edge or a little bit uncomfortable with how game number 1 went. So, for now, it looks like he is ready as well, and we'll be going into Dead Wing to start things in this game number 2. I think the Pig could tie it up, especially if he gets cross spawns and has a lot of room available to him. But at the same time, MacSed did look quite dangerous in the beginning portion of that match against Snoot here on this map. Was just not able to round it out. Snoot has no doubt been in a lot of those situations before where he's had to come back and had to rely on the Swarm Host as that unit to do so, but has Pig is the question. So MacSed could be very, very aggressive.
And I know exactly what that means too. It means that if MacSed ever has any kind of lead, this time he's going to aim for the kill.
Oh yeah.
He's not going to sit back ever again against Zerg.
Too true, too true. All right, let's get into things. Game number 2 now between Pig and MacSed, as we have spawning up to the top right-hand corner. It is our blue Protoss representing Invictus Gaming. It is MacSed. looking good so far. The bulldozer of a composition in that first game. And down to the bottom right-hand corner, it is our red Zerg representing Exile 5. It is PiG.
The bulldozer. Is that what Colossi remind you of?
Well, when you've got an army of Colossi and Void Rays and Stalkers and you're blinking forwards into... it's pretty bulldozerish.
Okay. As an expression, because the bulldozer is actually harmless compared to these bad boys.
Oh. Well, you stand in front of a bulldozer and see what happens.
Well, I know I much rather will face a bulldozer than Colossi and Void Rays. That's all I'm saying.
All right, okay.
All
That's
right.
fine.
Pylon down the ramp and quick scout here by MacSed. Might have been contemplating a cannon rush, and yeah, with that timing on the second probe being sound down the ramp, I think he wanted to go for a forge, but then he sent it back to his main, so he changed his mind just now. Seeing that he's gonna scout PiG first, I think he's already anticipating a pull first, which is exactly what's gonna happen. And upon realizing it's gonna be a pull first, he's like, well, it's useless to go for a forge then, because it wouldn't do anything. So I'm just gonna go for a Nexus first, and then behind this, I can follow it up either with the gateway or forge. I've seen actually quite a bit of forge behind Nexus, you know, just to make sure that you can get that cannon up on time, make sure that you can defend, that links are not gonna annoy you at all. But gateway is still very possible as well.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's forge though.
I like it from MacSed, you know, even going Nexus first now as a reactionary method here against his opponent. He knows that there wasn't any early pull to even threaten this. So it is going to be the forge though, to follow it up. He wants to make sure he is well hunkered down against something like this, just in case they were to come across the map, and will continue to build that wall up with the second pylon before the gateway.
Absolutely agree. He wants to make sure he's well hunkered down.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Yeah, I guess he wanted to... He's fine with delaying that gateway a little bit just to make sure that he can keep on chrono boosting out probes to build up his economy. And definitely should get to work with that here right now. Come on, MacSed. Why do you get the pylon if you weren't going to use it? Spend your money.
Oh, well.
You wanted to start a cannon before, I guess.
Yeah, it seems so.
No, he has. Why aren't you chrono boosting her? Here we go. On the other hand, PiG, he's just going to want to take that third base on this map. You know, very, very common to do that. To go, you know, gasless for quite a bit of time. The hidden probe here, a classic, man.
A classic. El Clasico, the poor little probe. And will he be able to
poor
spot
little
it?
probe? She's the one winning the game by planting down the pylon.
Oh, we're back to the gender argument now. Is a probe a girl or a boy?
Of course it's a girl.
What? How?
We say une probe.
Oh,
in French.
Yeah. Okay, all right. I get it now. What gender is a table again?
Female.
Exactly.
So?
Does that make sense? No. Okay, we're in France, I'll agree. All right, so he's getting the Cyberdeus car at the front. This Ling Matt didn't manage to spot this probe in a hidden location. Really good little spot there for MacSed.
Yeah, I mean, MacSed from here, he already has a forge. Like, a lot of the time you're going to be encouraged to use that to get a +1. But I don't know, every time I see a forge these days, I'm feeling Stargate. I don't know why. Just because, you know, it used to kind of be the trend. And it's a very good build to go for, no matter what. When you go for this kind of forge expand, you definitely have the money for it, and you can build up your economy at the same time. Let's see if he starts a sentry or something else.
If he sent that Ling back to anywhere on the map, the Ling would run past this because it wouldn't go. It would go directly as observer.
MacSed's gonna proxy something. Stargate! Woo! Maybe even double, actually.
Whoa.
He's getting a Stalker first, which I like because he knows that and Overlords are going to be flying in soon to try and check his main. It's so funny, man, that Ling.
Yeah.
Do you think he's going to move it and see something?
I think eventually he'd move it. I mean, what is it really doing up there? He could move it to an alternate location to see if there are any pylons along the left-hand side of the map, which would be probably the better thing to be doing here with that.
MacSed he's not going to go for the super cheesy double Stargate here. He's going to be just one, which indicates that he wants to go for at least one Oracle, sometimes more. I think one is enough, because then the Zerg will have Spores anyway, then you can't do any damage unless you're trapped. So I think just one Oracle, fly in, surprise your opponent, kill a bunch of drones, pull back, and then behind is just tech normally, get +2, blink, quick third, and, you know, do it standard, I guess. PiG, it's funny, like PiG really hasn't put any efforts into scouting for anything in terms of like flying in an Overlords or something like that. So right now, all he's seen is the double gas in the main, the double gas on the natural, which is like a big indicator there could be a Stargates. The thing is, if he plays too much like he assumes, he's going to be Blink +2 and a quick third. He's not going to have Spores. If you don't have Spores against Oracles, well, you know the rest.
Yes,
you know what
I
happens.
do. Get pewed. Well, he's adding on that Roach one, as you mentioned him. And I think this is going to be the saddest Ling of all time here, who is literally a screen's distance away, basically, from actually being able to spot that. And Pig, watching the replay back later on, if he takes some damage to it, will be kicking himself quite hard there. So Militia Core even being added on a little bit later, really. He hasn't really felt too threatened, so there's not too much of a particular reason to have that.
Oh, hello. The thing is, the Oracle already finished, so he's going to start Spores now. He needs to try. He already had started Spores, actually.
Yeah.
I think a little bit before that. So Pig started smelling something was up. And he's going to try to save as many drones as he can. He lost 4 so far, and I say only. This is a very decent number.
I think it made sense for him to start Spores. He really didn't see any units moving out into the middle of the map like he did last game.
Yeah, but the thing is, if it's Blink and +2, you've made 3 Spores that are like so useless.
True.
It's like the opposites.
Thankfully for him, it's not. The third base is going to go down for MacSed here. And how many drones are we working on at the moment? Only 42 drones to 47 probes.
Yeah, this is no good. He's actually making a lot of units right now. Pig, 24 Zerglings and a bunch of Roaches. He's gonna want to go for an attack on that third. He realized that since MacSed proxied a Stargate, or at least went for a Stargate, maybe he still doesn't realize that it was proxied, he's not gonna have too much on the ground, especially in terms of sentries. Without sentries, with their pure Zealot and Stalkers, it can be really tough to fight against Roaches and Zerglings. So he's gonna want to look to get a kill on that third base, but I mean, it's about to finish. Photon Overcharge is going to be up in a few seconds. It's 99 energy right now. Even the Daddy Oracle came back to defend.
There's so few units here. These sentries are going to end up falling very, very fast. There is a Photon Overcharge here, but he can just walk to the wall and then just go straight for that location. A lot of those Zerglings actually getting themselves detached off and going for probes that they're not really killing off towards that third base. But now he's on top of the natural.
Yeah.
This cannon is trying to hold on. And actually, you know, these units with the probes will be able to hold on after taking quite a few work kills.
It's a big mistake here by MacSed to fight for this long with the probes. He lost 14 probes. This is really one of the only way Pig could come back in terms of economy, and all of a sudden 55 drones to 38 probes. Pig has done what he needed to do here. He's going to be very far ahead on the economy, and I mean, he can just go for 4th base. This might even encourage him to go for something like a Spire and Mutas, but no, he throws down an Infestation Pit. Maybe he still hasn't quite decided what he wants to go for. I mean, at this point, one of the best things that you can do as a Zerg is not only go for the Infestation Pit, but you can add a Hydra then and a Spire, and then wait until all of those buildings have finished to decide what you go into exactly. One of the things that Pig might be afraid of is that since it is so much economic damage, there could be a big counterattack, and right now, we have 2 more additional gateways being added on here for MacSed. He's going to go up to 9 gateways, so he's basically going to go for a massive timing.
And it might be the best idea. There's going to be potentially Pig, if he doesn't see this properly, is going to be investing a lot into banking up some money when it comes to trying to transition onto the Swarm Host. He has 5 Roaches on the way at the moment. He only has 8 out at the moment. There's the Locust, Enduring Locust upgrade on the way, and he actually cancels everything after seeing this walk straight onto Creepy Nose. Is in a bit of trouble now.
Yeah, Pig needs to get as many Links and Roaches out as possible here right now. Doesn't have Gliar Reconstitution yet. Usually in this kind of situation, Burrow is useful because there is no Robo, but right now there is an Oracle, which offers detection here for MacSed. The thing is, it's not that high on hit points. I think getting Burrow here could have been nice if he had made it from the start, but starting it now would not help at all.
Well, Spores are going to come down to the front to try and help out against this push, even just slow it down for a second whilst this is going on. But he has force field off a good section of the army on the left-hand side.
Sentries.
The right-hand side will get shut down as well, as there aren't really too many Roaches here left over against the power of these Stalkers. The sentries are at the front kind of vulnerable, but they will survive, and MacSed is going to push through.
Yeah, Pig is on 64 drones against 46 probes. If he holds, he's going to be in a fantastic position.
There's going to be 19 extra Roaches popping very, very soon. Pig needs to buy a little bit more time. There's not that many reinforcements coming here from MacSed, but he is finding his way straight through to the supply lines of Pig. If he can shut down the Roaches at the front, he blinks forwards aggressively, trying to bring down those numbers. If he can divide and conquer as the drones come off the line as well, Pig Nose is in a bit of trouble. He just needs his units to pop and try and help out from every single angle. He's going to lose quite a lot of drones in all of this, though, as he does power on through, does MacSed. There's not even that many Roaches left in this position at all. as the worker supply in favor of MacSed as well, with that army supply now being evened up quite nicely.
And now in this position, with that much army supply here for MacSed, 45 to 47. It's 19 Stalkers against 16 Roaches. He has the +1, he has to blink. All he has to do is blink back the Stalkers one by one. Kind of failed actually here, blinked all of them, but I think he has so much that it's not even going to matter.
Yeah, killing off drone after drone as that has come off the line, and now the blink is off cooldown, so he can continue on blinking against these Roaches. There you go, GG. MacSed will take this series 2-0 and keep his hopes alive here in the WCS.
Very unfortunate series here for PiG. I feel like in the first game he expected an earlier timing. It was a late timing, which means he wasn't ready, and in this game the opposite. He went for an aggression with Roaches, killed a bunch of probes, thought that the timing will come, but not nearly as fast and furious as he did now. So he wasn't ready yet, had no swarm host, only had Roaches and not enough of them, maybe a few drones too many. 60-something drones to 46 probes, it's usually holding's pretty hard.
Yeah, and after you deal quite a bit of damage to the probe line there, you're going to have to expect something from a Protoss if they don't really want to prolong the game out on that kind of economic state against you, when they know the Zerg is going to have droned up quite a bit during all of that. So obviously it's going to be a rebuttal, and the rebuttal was strong.
Only you, Kailaris.
Only me. Only me. I guess. I know English, I guess. You know French. We're in your hometown here in Poitiers. So it's a really good series there from MacSed to be able to move on forwards. So that does it from us here at the desk. We're going to send it over to another desk with double the amount of people there. Not 2, it's 4.
Thank you, Kailaris, for the simple math. There are 4 of us here, joined by 3 other people as well. Thank you very much for James. Guys, that matchup. I'm sorry, buddy.
Australian hope is done.
Australian, the cookie crumbles, I'm sorry.
Australians are now very, very sad.
1 Australian down, 1 to go.
What?
Well, you're next.
Okay.
Nathan, your thoughts?
I'm a big fan of PiG. It was a pretty rough series. Like the first game, we could talk about what we expected out of MacSed with like the big pushes, the big aggression. MacSed played +2 Blink Stalker into like a really heavy Void Ray setup to deal with the swarm hosts. It was a very well thought out, very well set up build that didn't really match the expectations of a really fast gateway push like we'd kind of been talking about in the pre-match.
The big thing about that game is that MacSed went for this cute little play with the DT Shrine. It was a blink into third, but he mixed in that DT Shrine, and he dropped some DTs into the main base, and he sniped the Hive. So he had all of these swarm hosts, but he couldn't do anything against the Colossus. He didn't have Corruptors, and then he didn't have Vipers out in time because he didn't manage to rebuild the lair and the Hive up, so he didn't have much to deal with it.
All right, well, we'll come back to this discussion and continue this in a moment, but we do have a winner's interview with MacSed, so let's go to the stage.
Thank you very much, Apollo. Congratulations, MacSed. That was a very, very convincing 2-0 victory over PiG. I'm going to just jump right into questions with the help of the translator Edison here. Thank you very much. Yesterday, you had a very close loss against Snoot. It was a 2-1 loss, PiG, after you went home.
昨天你输给 Snoot 之后啊，那场比赛很接近。就之后你是怎么来准备今天比赛的？之后怎么来准备今天的比赛的？
因为是双败赛制，之前的比赛输赢对我来说无所谓。只要准备好赢2场比赛就可以了。
Because it's double elimination, and I think I just win 2 people and I can advance.
Very confident words, and Edison actually told me that you don't get nervous at these tournaments, MacSed. However, this was the elimination match of WCS. It means if you lost here, you're out. Were you really confident the whole time during that series against PiG?
主要昨天我跟他在下面看的时候说你因为年纪大，所以怎么说呢，压力不会太大，心态比较好嘛。然后他就问你，现在是淘汰赛，那么你是否一直都能保持一个非常稳定的一个心态？
我比赛一般都会超常发挥。
When I was in the game, I always do 200%.
200% clearly worked against PiG over here. And last but not least, your teammate Jiga unfortunately was eliminated from Group A, which means you're the only Chinese representative left in WCS. How much more does it mean for you now to do well here?
还有一名中国选手西瓜已经被淘汰了。那你作为唯一的一名中国选手，你现在就觉得这个对你来说意味着什么？后面你准备怎么样？
感觉压力比较大，尽力发挥就好了。
I think I feel a lot of pressure, and I think I just do my best, and it's let's see.
All right, well, best of luck, MacSed. Maybe if you give 200%, we can make it out of this group. And thank you again, Edison, for the translating. Very much appreciated. We'll see who MacSed will go up against. It'll be either Snoot or Showtime. But before then, let's hear some words from our experts.
Thank you very much, Smix. MacSed, can he carry the Chinese flag all the way?
It's going to be very difficult, but his PvP is very good. So if Snoot would defeat Showtime, then I think it's very possible for MacSed, but I don't think he's going to have a good shot against Snoot. Like we saw yesterday, if Snoot gets in a certain zone, you know, as great as MacSed's position was, it was still not enough for him to win. Like if you're Snoot right now, you go into that series, then you're just like, well, I'm just going to put myself in that position, and then I don't think anything should go wrong in this series. So I think it will come down a lot to who MacSed will play.
Do you want to go back to anything on MacSed versus PiG there?
Yeah, I mean, like I think game number 2, on that wing, that's also the type of MacSed that we know. As soon as you give him an opening, like PiG made a lot of roaches and he did kill a handful of pros, but he didn't kill the Nexus. And of course that Oracle did deal a little bit of economic damage. So the Oracle does some economic damage, and then there are a bunch of roaches being produced of a relatively low economy. Then MacSed immediately sees the windows like, all right, if I now counterattack, you know, I'm not even going to pro pop. I'm not going to go up to 70 workers, and I'm not going to get a second fortune, all these upgrades. I'm just going to try to win right here, right now, because you did 2 things that were not very good for your economy in this game, and that should give me a window to win, and then he just wins. You know, he's very relentless in his decision making.
All right, so it's time to start to get ready for the next game, and it's going to be a big one. As the next one, looking forward to this one. The guys on the desk are as well. So when we come back from this break, we will go to the winners match, and this is going to be an excellent one. Snoot versus Showtime.